here. Well, today we're going to finally take a look at a completed S10 straight axle conversion, two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive. You've seen the series of videos. I think this is number 4. Today we're just going to kind of go over what it became and take a closer look at what I've done with it. I've had it out on an outing recently. Not much footage of that, sorry to say, but it was more like a shakedown run type thing, and there was some bugs we had to work out, and there's still a couple things I need to work out with it too. So let's take a closer look. Hey guys, let's take a closer look at the S10 build. And like in the opening of the video, I did have it out. I've been driving on the road. I currently got a temporary plate on it right now, and there was some bugs in the beginning. We're just going to do a quick once around. We're definitely going to revisit this. I've had it out on an outing, did some trail time with it, but not a lot of footage of that. And the reason why it was late at night and that kind of thing, and I was more concerned about just doing a shakedown run. And hey, it made it back. That's the main thing. And I'll discuss some of the things that's been the problem with it. And but so far so good. Everything's been pretty decent so far. Like I said, I got the guard dogs on it, and those are 35-inch guard dogs, tread right tires, and they seem to do very well with the 410 gears in this. I don't have the weight, the curb weight of this yet, but I'm hoping that we've saved some pounds by actually building it off the S10 frame and the box and all that. You know, basically the only thing I've used off the S10 itself was the frame and the cab and the box, basically the body. Everything else, the whole drivetrain is K20. It's got a corporate 14 bolt in the back with a gov lock, 410 gears. In the front is a Dana 44, 410 gears obviously, with a Spartan lunchbox locker in it. So far, that's been doing its job too. Now, I haven't got out and completely flogged on it. You know, a lot of them say they're good to 400 horse or whatnot. I'm not sure about that yet, how long it's going to last. We're going to find out. Really, I have had no need to put this in 4-low lock. It does work, but I never had no need for it. Plenty of hills, pretty good terrain, and that kind of thing. We're just going to do this video. I'm going to try to keep it going here, so it's fairly quick. You've seen part of the build. These are bastard pack leaf springs. Partially are S10s, partially are off a K20. It's got 6-inch lift blocks on it. 4-wheel disc. The shocks in the back, I think I've explained before, those are basically off a F350, like a 2006 1-ton. And I made my own brackets, obviously, on the bottom and all that, and they seem to work pretty well. I got plenty of travel both ways. I think these ended up being about 6 or 7 inches each way, which for this suspension is more than enough. I mean, this is, you know, this is more of a trail rig. It's not really a rock bouncer or nothing like that. It does well so far, and it actually rides softer than expected. So let's go around to the other side and up back to the front again, and we'll I put the thrush chambered welded exhaust on these, and it sounds really good. So far it sounds really good. The front springs did settle, so I actually had to go down another bolt hole. Good thing I had extra. I put extra 2 on there on the shackle, so I actually had to go in the middle, and then I had to go one more up in the back to level it out, because these front springs were new. And you know how new springs are. Once you settle them in, they will go down a little bit. So, you know, the Monroe shocks in the front also are off a actually those are off a regular 1-ton like a K35 GMC truck, I believe, and I just relocated my top bracket. Anyways, the bottom bracket is OEM, and it worked out pretty good. I think there's about 5.5 inches both ways, which with these really stiff springs, that's more than enough. Plenty of spring on it, but it rides better than expected, I'm not gonna lie. The tires, plenty of clearance on the tires. I mean, literally, I don't see a problem. A guy could really go with 38s or 40s without no problem. These really don't have much of an offset neither. And I mean, a person could probably go pretty big tires on it if you want to. I don't want to. I've already gotten basically, let's just say, a talking to from a state trooper saying that my bumpers and all that are kind of high. We won't get into all that. He was cool about it. He just said, well, you might want to look into them laws, you know, whatever. So far, the outside the steering box has been doing well. The pressure line, I had it made at the local auto value store. They just, I got the measurements. They crimped it. It's really short. Goes right to the power steering pump. The return line, nothing fancy about that. Works out well. So far, everything's staying tight. We talked about the build before when I fastened this to the outside of the steering box. The reason why I did that, I didn't want to use a tiny S10 box. You know, they can whip out. They can, you know, they're not made for tires, you know, this size, you know, obviously. And I want everything to be basically a K20. If I need a part for this, it's all K20. Everything from the frame down is basically K20. We talked about the stainless steel braided lines. These are actually All-Stars. I didn't mention that before, but these are like from All-Star Performance, and you kind of build your own. It's probably about the cheapest way. And what I like about it, my local parts store handles them too. You buy the ends, you buy what size line you want. I mean, they go all the way up to like 30 inches. So pretty cool. Not real super expensive. I would say for all three lines, costing me under $100, but I would say probably closer to 80 bucks or so for all three lines. One in the back and then obviously the two in the front. Let's go underneath and take a closer look here. I'm going to be moving the camera here. Sorry about that, but it's probably the best way for me to show you what's going on here. We talked about the TH350 gear drive tool 5 transfer case, and there's the exhaust. Now the exhaust, they just dump in front of the axle. I got a little bit lazy because I built all this from scratch. We're going to go up under the engine bay here in a minute. And some things have been changed since the last time I've talked to you guys. I had everything mounted in once, but the angle on the front drive shaft was too much of an angle. I was getting bind on that front drive shaft, so I had to drop everything down 3 inches. Yeah, no kidding. I had to pull everything back out, recalibrate everything, remeasure, measure once, cut twice, basically is what it felt like. But I had to drop everything down 3 inches. So I had headers for this, made for this, had them basically in and everything, but they would hit the frame after dropping the motor, the drivetrain, the motor train transfer case down 3 inches, they'd hit the frame. We're going to go on top and talk about it a little bit more, but you'll see what manifolds I ended up using. I didn't use the headers that I had made for this and stuff. Kind of a waste of money a little bit, but hey, it is what it is. And there's not much I can do about all that. So let's move forward a little bit. I'm going to go around. I'm going to stop the camera here for a brief second. We're going to pop the hood and talk a little bit more what's going on underneath the hood with the exhaust. We're going to talk about carburation and that kind of thing. But so far, everything down here has been doing pretty good. And you can see I did put a U-joint guard. I figured I had it apart and stuff. I went to Rough Stuff and bought that guard to throw on there. Looks cool and all that. Not that I'm going over rocks and all that kind of stuff, but there's stumps and stuff like that, so I figured, heck, one day it may pay for itself. Alright, got the hood open here. We're going to do the best I can to kind of cover everything here and not make this video too long. As I was saying, I had headers for this, and after dropping the motor and everything down 3 inches, well, the headers hit the frame. So my thought, going back to some old school thinking stuff, the old ram horn, cast iron, center dump manifolds would work. So I acquired a pair of these. You can get them from Summit, Speedway Motors, all that kind of stuff. And I thought they would drop in. I thought there was enough room, but there was not. I had to notch the frame, and I don't know if you can see it there, but I had to get some C-channel. And I notched the frame into where the coil springs would normally go, I guess, from the two-wheel drive. And actually, this actually probably made it stronger because that's 3/8 C-channel. And I just marked it off, cut it, put it in there, and welded it all in. So I got plenty of clearance around the center dump of the exhaust on both sides. And did the same over here. Maybe you can get a better look at that on this side here. So basically, it's got center dumps like off a mid-60s Corvette is basically what these manifolds are. These are the bigger ones, the 2.5 inch. Even though a lot of my pipe is 2 1/4, it runs very well with this 400 small block. This motor has been performing very well. For First time out though, I had a 650 double pumper on it. I think I talked about it before. We rebuilt it with all the 4x4 springs. It had the cross flow 4x4 vent tube in it. And I'll tell you what, guys, as soon as we start hitting bumps and that, the typical carburetor acting up, you know, it wasn't like bumps, it wasn't like hills. I had the float set pretty decent. I mean, if anybody's got any advice out there on these Holleys, on four-wheel driving, let me know. Put it in the comments below, man. I mean, this here ended up being a vacuum secondary 600, brand new out of the box. Obtained it the night I was about 30 miles from my house and just wanted to continue to play, so I picked it up, we put it on here and didn't touch it. Everything, we just throw the idle up a little bit and been running it. It worked. It got me through the night. There were some extreme, you know, pretty decent hills and some pretty good bumps. I had a few hiccups here and there with it, but out of the box, I was actually pretty surprised. I actually did pretty good. I do not have the off-road needle seats in here, the spring-loaded ones. I don't have them in here yet. But so far, so good. Yes, fuel injection would be the ultimate thing to do, but I don't have an extra $1,400 laying around to do it. Anybody out there have any suggestions on that? Please feel free to leave comments below. I would like to get a Holley sniper kit, but I don't think Holley's going to front me one. You know what I'm saying, guys? If they're listening, hey Holley, send me a sniper kit for this, a complete kit, and I'd love to feature it on my channel here. Right, like they're going to listen. But hey, you never know, right? Everybody's going to ask me what this valve here is for going to the brake booster. This is going to be a helpful hint to somebody unless somebody's already figured this out. I hooked the vacuum directly from the intake to the booster. Brakes were all bled. Everything's new. Brake lines, calipers, rotors, everything's brand new. Four-wheel disc. I did put the proportioning valve for the rear brakes in. That's just an all-star one. It will proportion down 57% less pressure to the rear brakes. I think I got it about almost maxed out. Not quite, but it's pretty well. I don't know. I don't have a pressure gauge on it to actually test it. I'm going to say we're about 40% less pressure to the rear, and it works good on wet pavement, dirt, whatever. Well, anyways, I hooked the hose directly to the vacuum boost there. Went to start it up, hit the brakes, right to the floor. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I mean, it basically was like you blew brake lines. What, nothing was leaking. Without the motor running, the brakes were solid, great pedal. As soon as I fired up, right to the floor. Well, then I found out that I was drawing way too much vacuum into that booster. See, on these, this had like a 4-cylinder 2.2 in it originally. I think they had an electronic overrun boost controller for the power brake system. I don't know how it works. Don't ask me. But a good friend of mine says, man, just throw a set of vice grips on there, get a little vacuum, and hook up and try it. And I did it, and it worked fine. So my way of thinking, well, a gas valve would work, and that's what I did. I went out and got a gas valve with a couple nipples on it. And if you look, it's just barely cracked open. And it works flawlessly. So before, yes, it was over boosting, no question about it. Now it works great. Okay, we're going to move on to the other thing here. We covered the carburetor, that was a problem. We covered the brake booster, that was a problem. Power steering all worked well. And I got a dual fan. Let me see if I can get better look here. It's got a dual fan system in it. And this is a Northern radiator. It's the biggest one I could fit in it. I think it's, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it's 31 inches by like, I want to say 16.5 or 18. I mean, I had to put it in there. It wasn't easy. And then I got the dual fans, which I do need to box this top vent in. These were new, but they were kind of laying around the guy's shop for a little while. I can't quite remember the name of them, but they're a pretty good system. They work good. I got them hooked up to a relay system with a sensor that goes right into the head here. And I believe they kick on at about 185. Now I got a 180 thermostat in it. So they kind of correspond a little bit, but if you're really in the trail and it's really getting hot, yeah, they will kick on and off here and there, not very often. So that's been working pretty well. I do need to enclose this, and I'm just going to get some sheet metal up here, some plastic, and enclose all that. So far, I mean, we haven't had 100-degree days, but it's been working very well, staying very cool. But I'm going to enclose this so it forces the fans to suck through the radiator. Other than that, that's been well. As you can see, there's no computer on board. This is a 2001. I was going to go the route and use the computer and all that, and it ended up, it was a nightmare. I'm kind of old school. I mean, I literally was going to go toggle switch and all that, but I decided not to. I got into it. I found the power on key. I found the start mode off the key switch. Figured all that out. But the only thing, I ran a relay, which goes to the solenoid. Just simple stuff, simple universal relays. That all works now. The biggest problem I had with this was the lights and brake lights and that kind of thing without the computer. There was a point when I first fired this thing up, you'd fire it up, turn the headlights on, hit the brakes, the headlights will go out. I know I checked all the grounds, I added extra body grounds, frame grounds. I mean, I got grounds going everywhere on this thing. And we could not figure it out. And to this point, it's still kind of a mystery. So I pulled the brake light fuse, and I have a wire going inside with actually a momentary switch, and I isolated the brake lights to themselves, ran a wire all the way to the back, and when I need a brake light, I gotta push a little button. So what I'm going to do, because I can't quite figure that out, I'm gonna get an inline pressure sensor. So basically, they used them in the old street rods, T-buckets, that kind of builds, and sand rails, that kind of thing. You hit the brakes, it creates pressure, which connects the negative side, I believe it is, and then it will activate my brakes. So I'm going to end up putting one of them in, and then I don't have to worry about a push button. I won't have to think about it or nothing like that. That should work pretty well. But that was kind of an issue too. And stabilizer, this thing actually drives pretty good down the road, believe it or not. I just got an OEM stabilizer on it, threw that on. The steering, everything's pretty much new. I mean, all the ball joints, you know, I went through everything, so it is a fairly tight front end and all that. This thing tracks really nice, it drives really nice. I mean, without the sway bars, I wouldn't go 80 miles an hour down the road, but at 55, 60, not a problem. Drives really good. It's not real stiff like you would think. Runs out pretty decent. I did end up putting a fuel cell in. I was going to use a stock system, but I decided, you know, I had the fuel cell laying around. Actually, I got to get that water out of there. It looks like it's ponding up, but that, I mean, it is obviously waterproof, but it's not a good thing to have on there. We just had a big rain just today. But anyways, it's been working good. It's about a 16-gallon tank. I'm going to set up a jerry rig can just to have an extra 5 on the trail. The fuel cells moved back because I want to get a toolbox in here, guys. If you're asking me why it's back so far. Plus it puts the weight over the rear axle where it should be. But I want to get a toolbox put in, put a jerry rig can in, so I got an extra 5 gallons on hand to get down the trail. You know, if I run out in the woods or whatever. I don't know the gas mileage of this thing, but interior here, I did go all analog gauges. We got the oil. I just went through some of it, obviously. Got the oil pressure, the volt, and the water temperature. That all worked out really well. I just got an autometer tack, a small one, and as you can see, I use my cell phone, so at 55 miles an hour, where that red arrow is, that's my 55 miles an hour. With the 410 gears, with the 35s, it's about 2,800 RPMs roughly. The shifter, I ended up putting a B&M Mega Shifter in it. Yes, there's not a cover on it right now, but it does work really good. So I got a Mega Shifter in it. I was going to use the column shifter, but it was kind of where the cable hooked in and was all geeked up, so I ended up eliminating that and just putting a floor shifter in it. The TK shifter, that just comes right up. I had this T-handle to screw that on there. I got to get a couple rubber boots yet for that, but it works out well. I mean, the Gear Drive 205 transfer case, pretty much bulletproof. Everybody knows that. For what motor I'm running, a mild built 400, should have any problem with the drivetrain. Really, I shouldn't. Guys run them with big blocks, modified, mud bogging, you know, big tires and stuff. I shouldn't have any problem. Interior's pretty decent in here. I like the fact that it's got crank windows. Not compared to a lot of vehicles with the power windows, they end up having problems with them. You know how it works, guys. I did put a cab light on it. This is basically a China-made one. But heck, it works good. It's a complete kit. It lights up really nice on the trail. It does its purpose, does its job. Well under 100 bucks. I'm not complaining. So anyways, guys, I was trying to think of one more thing, and there was another issue I had, and it was on the way home. I had a brand new one-wire alternator from a local auto value store, and of course it had a lifetime warranty, but I seen my volts drop down to 11 volts, and I knew there was issues. Just at the end of the night, end of the trail run, and I basically got back to a good friend's house. We charged it for an hour or so, the battery fully charged, and I headed home, and I'm about 35 miles from there. And I got about 5 miles from my place, and without thinking, I ran out of gas. Well, then I had to try to restart it. That didn't work. Good thing I had a jump box with me. Put the jump box on, and I got home, guys. So they warrantied it. No questions asked. Complete exchange. It was just, I guess you get a new one out of the box every once in a while. It can happen. It can happen to anybody. I just want to finish out this video, talk a little bit more about what's going on, and so far so good, guys. This thing is pretty decent on the trail. It's still 108-inch wheelbase. I don't know if I've talked about that before. It's a little bit longer than most of your Jeeps, but it's still got around in the tight trails very well. I'm very satisfied with it so far. The motor, like I said, was not completely rebuilt. I probably should have rerung it and that kind of thing, but it still runs pretty good, guys. Who knows what we'll do down the road, if we'll pull it and redo it again, but for now I'm just having some fun, getting the bugs worked out, and it does a pretty good job of it. With the 410 gears, the 35-inch tires, with the lockers, it pretty much goes wherever it needs to go. I mean, I'm not too crazy with it yet, but it's got more than enough power with the 400 small block with that cam and stuff in it. Boy, a fuel injection, it would definitely be a different kind of animal. There's no question about that. We'll see what happens down the road, if we'll acquire a fuel injection kit for this or not. I don't know. But anyways, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Like I always said before, big fun for life. Don't forget about it. And please like, subscribe my videos, and share them. And we'll be bringing them more back to you, back to back, as we get going here, guys. So we got a lot more outings coming out, a lot more trail riding. And there's another build coming up in the near future that you guys might enjoy. I'm definitely going to enjoy it, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, guys, as always, thanks for watching. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you on the trail.